Bride gets ultimate revenge on fiancé after receiving screenshots of his affair. Casey, a blushing bride-to-be, could not contain her excitement over the thought of marrying her fiancé, Alex. What she did not predict, however, was how one brief incident the night before her wedding would bring her world to a screeching halt. Her wedding ended in shambles, so she set out to get her sweet revenge. Since she first laid her eyes on Alex, Casey knew in her heart that he was the one. As such, when he popped the question, Casey immediately agreed to his marriage proposal. If only she knew the road that lay ahead. At the time of their engagement, it only made sense for Casey to accept Alex's proposal. After all, the couple had been in a happy relationship for 6 years, during which time their families became friends and their lives were fully entangled. Nevertheless, not every seemingly good thing is built to last. With the excitement building as the big day edged ever closer, Casey and her friends decided that it would be a good idea to throw one last party on the night before her wedding. Little did they know what awaited them that night. Casey and her friends arrived at the most glamorous hotel they could find, where they decided to begin their night by enjoying some drinks upstairs in their hotel room. Suddenly, from across the room, Casey's phone buzzed. "Phone is running hot tonight," one of Casey's friends joked as the ladies danced the night away with their wine glasses in hand. While Casey laughed at her friend's joke and did a little twirl on the way to her phone, her expression immediately shifted as she glanced at the screen. As she picked up the phone, Casey was expecting to read yet another message filled with good wishes for her big day. Instead, she read the following cryptic message: "I wouldn't marry him. Will you?" This suspicious message was not the only one that the anonymous number sent to Casey. It was accompanied by a string of screenshots, all of which seemed to display messages between Alex and another woman. What was going on? Before even reading any of the text messages, Katie's heart sank when she saw selfies between Alex and another woman. While Casey is blonde and fair, the mysterious woman was olive-skinned with dark hair, a dead giveaway that she was not the only woman keeping Alex company. After regaining their composure, Casey decided to shift her focus from the selfies to the text messages themselves. She noticed that the messages began a few months ago, while the latest was dated just a few days before their wedding date. Clearly, Alex's secret relationship was nothing new. With Casey clearly struggling to process what was going on, the legitimacy of these messages understandably came into question. One could hardly blame Casey for her denial, particularly when the first message between Alex and this woman read, "This weekend, you and I. It is on, hot stuff. Bring your A game." While strongly worded, the opening message could have been written off as flirting on Alex's part, as a means of entertainment. In the next screenshot, Casey was about to learn not only of her fiancé's disloyalty, but his harsh opinion of her as well. The next message was all too indicative of what was really going on. "Your body is fucking incredible, and shit, do you know how to use it? I wish my girlfriend had half the skills you do." Now Casey realized that Alex had started an affair with someone with whom he felt even more chemistry. If the above messages weren't earth-shattering enough, the third text from Alex to his mystery lover proved just how little he truly thought of Casey. "I miss you so much, I can't stop thinking about L.S.F.ing you. I've never had this kind of connection before." Each sentence that Casey read was like a dagger going into her heart. But the question remained, what was she to do? There she was at her own party, surrounded by all of her loyal friends. Suddenly, Casey burst into tears, no longer able to contain herself after reading such heart-wrenching messages. As soon as they noticed Casey's broken expression, all the girls rushed over to console their friend. The whole lot of them started fuming at the thought that their dear friend had been played like that. Soon they started threatening all manners of violence against Alex, even telling Casey to call off the wedding. But Casey was still unsure of her feelings. Even after reading all the harrowing messages, Casey could not let go of her love for Alex. She still wanted to marry Alex. Given the new information, however, she knew that things would never be the same. She now had a critical decision to make. Should she cancel the wedding? After some intense discussions and comforting from her friends, Casey announced that it was time to go to bed. As difficult as it would be to get some rest, Casey knew that she needed to take some time to think clearly about the path that lay ahead. As could be expected, Casey was unable to get even a minute of sleep that night. After all, how could she after the trauma she suffered the night before? On the bright side, however, she was given ample time to formulate a detailed plan for how she would approach her wedding day. With the suggestions of her friends replaying in her mind, Casey had a tough choice to make. Does she cancel the wedding on the spot, or perhaps pull off an ingenious plan that popped up into her head during the night? Even if her relationship was truly over, would it be fair for Casey to cancel the wedding after everyone had traveled to be there and everything had been paid for? Fortunately, Casey had the plan that would allow the wedding to proceed as normal. Well, almost. Instead of simply calling off the wedding and confronting Alex, Casey decided that the show would go on while Alex was none the wiser. What better way to exact revenge than by embarrassing him in front of all their family and friends? As Casey prepared for her wedding day, she felt a pit in her stomach. Her elegant wedding dress was no more than a costume, as Casey knew that any dreams of a happy marriage were now extinguished. Still, she got dressed for the big day, as she knew that she still had a job to do. With the wedding venue packed to the rafters, Casey geared herself up to walk down the aisle. With leaden feet, each step felt like an eternity as Casey began her ascent to the altar. All eyes were on her. As all of Casey's family and friends eagerly stood in wait, Alex was nervously awaiting her arrival at the end of the aisle. Even as she began to proceed towards him, Casey could not put on a happy face. Her fiancé knew that he was in trouble. After what seemed like an eternal stride, Casey made it to the altar. As she turned to face the rest of the church, her guests knew that something wasn't right. It was then that she took a deep breath and prepared to make a shocking announcement. A nervous yet resolute Casey mustered up all of her bravery as she loudly declared, "There will be no wedding today." The entire room was shocked into silence as she continued to reveal some more pressing info. Knowing that Casey was about to reveal his sordid affair to the whole world, Alex attempted to grab her hands and calm her down. Unfortunately for him, Casey wasn't going to let his bad behavior slide so easily. But how would his family and friends react? Casey brushed Alex's hands away and threw down her flowers, subsequently lifting her phone to her face. As she began reading the first text message aloud, the color drained from Alex's face after each word. Casey continued reading the text messages aloud as her eyes welled up with tears. Despite being overcome with emotion, she decided to persevere with her mission. But what would become of Alex? After putting a great deal of effort into persisting with her speech, Casey decided to make eye contact with Alex to see what he made of this awkward circumstance. All that the speechless groom could do was panic and think of how to escape from the corner he found himself trapped in. Clearly suffering from extreme guilt as well as the embarrassment of being exposed in front of his entire family, Alex had no response other than to escape from the church. He crept out the back of the church with his best man following closely behind. After seeing Alex flee, the crowd's astonishment rose to another level. While this was sure to have thrown Casey off her game as well, she remained strong and decided to provide her guests with a message of gratitude. "I love all of you, and as horrible as this is, I'm glad you're all here," Casey exclaimed. This former bride showed even more incredible courage with her next few words. "There will not be a wedding reception today, but instead there will be a celebration of honesty, finding true love, and following your heart even when it hurts." Clearly, Casey had another plan up her sleeve. Just because a marriage is off doesn't mean that all of the wedding preparations should go to waste. In place of the wedding, Casey and her friends decided to throw a massive party in celebration of being true to oneself. But how would the rest of the guests react? Following Casey's speech, it's no surprise that her guests were unsure of how to respond. Nevertheless, as soon as Casey put down her phone, the room was filled with some awkward applause and, surprisingly, some sporadic cheering. Having earned her guests' approval, thanks to her exceptional bravery, Casey was able to convince everyone to stay behind for her impromptu celebration. In Casey's own words, it was one hell of a party. After posting about her story online, Casey's wedding disaster became a viral sensation. Thousands of people commented on posts regarding Casey's experience, with many complimenting the former bride on her courage and ability to pull off such an elaborate plan. If there's any lesson that Casey has taught us, it's that there is always a way to make the most out of a bad situation. Instead of losing her temper, Casey decided to use her energy to put together a celebration for all her friends to enjoy.